All right, so now it's time to start running the functionality. Writing the functionality we require to actually do this. And again, I'm not going to get into loan calculations or whatnot. There's an American version and a Canadian version. There's annual versus monthly, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. For the this exercise, I don't care whether it's really right or not. Again, we really care whether systems are right, but that's what your product owner is all about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you what we're going to do from here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually break this out. So I'm going to put that on a separate line, put the total on the separate line. And the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that I'm going to be calculating the monthly number correctly. So I'm just going to worry about getting this one correct right here. Okay. And in order to do that, again, as you know, I have a little bit of code that I'm going to borrow that's going to actually do the calculation for me. I, just like anybody else, looked this up on the internet and got the example here. And I've actually referenced the nice person that provided this code for me. So I've actually put a reference in here, or I will put a reference in here that appreciates, and let me do that right now while I think of it. Oh no, sorry, it's going to be in the next section. But anyways, I will always reference the person I stole the code from, okay? Which is again the highest form of flattery. All right, so what I'm doing is we're just calculating the interest payments. Because the numbers are going in as whole numbers, we're dividing by 100 and dividing by 12 because I want to figure out what the monthly payment is. And then the actual payments are the years times 12 because that's how many payments I'm making, okay? And then I'm going to do this calculation. Let's make this a little bigger, which calculates my X, which is my number. And then I'm going to actually take that and calculate what the monthly payment is. All right. So at this point, it's not even that important. Again, I'm trying to get as close to one line of change as I possibly can. In this case, you can see I actually had 1, 2, 3, 4 lines of code. Sorry about that. That's really bad. So the next thing I'm going to do is now I'm going to run it. And what do you guys think? Is that going to work or not? So all of you guys that were pretty bright and watching really closely would notice that nothing has changed. The same error has occurred. Now, why has the same error occurred? Well, interestingly enough, I did the calculation, but I didn't actually return the number. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to return the number. So instead of that number, I'm going to actually return the number that I've calculated. And let's see how that does. And of course, you know that's not going to work either, but we'll have to find out why. Okay, so we just ran the test, and we've noticed that the test is failing. Oh my goodness, look at this. It's failing because of the darn JavaScript situation. And the darn JavaScript situation is it allows these to be real numbers. All right, so what we're going to have to do is we have to deal with that. And so now, after all this work, we realize that I actually have to write another function. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to write another function to solve this problem. And I'm going to make it round. And I'm just going to show you. So I'm going to call a new function called round. I'm going to expect a num. And I'm going to game. What did I just do here? I just wrote a stub for a function that I'm going to begin to test. So what I'm going to do, and again, this happens very often. So I start writing a function and realize when I'm in the middle of the function, I actually need another one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. Okay. And then I'm going to copy this guy. And because it's a fairly simple function, I'm actually going to do an expect. And I'm going to go. Okay, so I have my stub. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually call this. Okay. right? And if I pass it 1, 2, 3, point 1, 2, 3, 4, I actually want it to return to me 1, 2, 3, point 1, 2, right? I want to get rid of the 3, 4. And again, I want to round it. I don't want to just truncate because it's financial. That becomes a little more important. Now, I have a little bit of a problem because what happened here? I really don't want to test my other code. I actually only want to test this code. So test the round function. Okay. So if I go to run this by itself, that's going to be a problem. I'm going to save everything. Now, there's a line of code that I actually helped with. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring it here. Oh, what's happened to my terminal session here? All right. I'm going to bring up. I'm going to start a new terminal. That one looks sick. All right, I'm going to start a new terminal. And what I'm going to do is npm test. Instead of that, I'm going to actually run around. Okay, so because I was starting to work on one function, as I was working on that function, I realized I needed another function. I now want to actually start testing that extra function I'm running. And so if you notice, I'm actually one deep now. And that's okay. That's normal development. That happens all the time. And as a matter of fact, it's very often you get 2 or 3 or 4 deep. All right, so when I run this, it's actually going to give me an error. Oh crap, what's my error now? It's expected this, and oh my goodness, look at this. I ran the wrong thing. So it's actually comparing a number to the object that I returned. And the reason that happened is because right here, I called the wrong one. Let's try that again, and we'll run this. Now, interestingly enough, over the weekend, I switched into using Windows because I haven't used Windows for a year or two now, and my tests are running way longer than they ran before. So you bet I'm going to run them back to Linux just as quickly as I can. Okay, so now look at this. I expected it to be 1, 2, 3, and I actually received 0. What the heck? Oh, of course, it's a stub. That's all I got. So what I'm going to do is return my 1, 2, 3 to here, save it. My test will work. The tests are a little slow, but they'll work. And it did. So now what I'm going to do is, and again, that's why I always need one test. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to make this 2, 3, 4, 5. And what that should be now is 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. Okay, and run that. And of course, that's my failing test. And then I'll have to put the next piece of chunk of code in to make that work. Okay. And as you know, I actually have a chunk of code, and I'll just copy and paste in that. And again, I'm not putting a lot of emphasis on figuring out what the problem-solving code is, because that's the work. I'm trying to show how we test it. Okay, so now that's failed. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a math round, but because JavaScript doesn't do rounding properly, long story, because of real numbers and stuff, we actually do it by hand. So what we do is we've multiplied the number by 1,000 or by 100. We round that to the whole numbers, and then we divide by 100 so that we can get the numbers. Okay. What we're going to do now is we're going to run that. Oh, we didn't save it. Okay. I'm going to save that. I'm going to run it. And there we are. Okay, that test has passed. I think we've gone long enough here. I'm going to take a little bit of a break, see if there's any questions. Okay, if there are any questions out there.